Hey guys, what's going on? It's Dan Gheesling, and welcome to episode 100. Yes, 100 of the Dan Gheesling podcast. Super excited to be here today. It's been an interesting, couple of weeks. I guess I consider this officially episode 100. The past couple of weeks, we've been, had some special edition episodes, but it's funny because I think for, random, unique episodes, I get really, really excited about it. But episode 100 hits a little bit different, but for us in terms of what you should expect on this episode, it's a journal update episode about what's been going on. And I want to jump right into it. I would say this past week, you guys know what I'm talking about. YouTube has just been, it's, I feel extremely grateful right off the rip because YouTube has started to plummet a little bit. And I think there's probably a ton of reasons why. The Splunky series was getting about 1,600 an episode. Now it's like hovering around like 1,000. And just some of the normal stuff just hasn't done as well. And I think there's a bunch of reasons for it. But before I get into the reasons, I do want to talk about, the importance of having a friend in the same industry. And it's rare, but this past week I was a little bit up against the ropes. I was sick. My running streak, I had a running streak of 8 straight weeks of running, and I got sick. So the whole week got yeeted. And one of the things I pride myself on is I did a show, and I don't know if it's something necessarily to be proud of, but I did a show where I was sick, and I changed the show platter around, or the show schedule, and what the plan was, because I know for me, if I'm not, if I'm sick, like, and I was legit sick, like it's difficult to play a game like an online multiplayer game like Escape from Tarkov, or even something like Sekiro, because it requires so much in terms of focus and being dialed in. Not only just being dialed in, but being being focused to be equipped to handle some of the, like I guess I could call them salt blockers, right? Like in Sekiro, you're gonna die a lot, and you're gonna die in some unique ways. In Escape from Tarkov, you're gonna get yeeted from any angle, like, and with rhyme or reason, and those, I'm not even, sometimes those moments, they're hard to deal with, and the way the show is structured is to keep things positive. And I think that's the important thing to say, is like that's always the goal, but it's not always willy-nilly, in terms of it's not always easy to do that, and I think I was aware enough to know, hey, look, I'm not feeling great, so I don't want to put on a show or put on a product in which, I know maybe there would be some factors playing against the fact I can stay positive, right? Like if I get salted and Escape from Tarkov on a normal day, it's like, not a big deal. But when you're not feeling well, like, I'm just self-aware. Like, I know if anyone's not feeling well, they're more apt, and maybe their shields are down a little bit more. And so I was aware of that. So I wanted to kind of change that dynamic. And so I decided to play a single player roguelike in Neon Abyss, something where if I took a loss, or if there was a bad play, it was, because of me. And I guess it's on the same side, or it's not as salt inducing. Not that if I get killed in Tarkov or Sekiro, it's not my fault. But there's just so many other factors. Where in Neon Abyss, a game like that, it could come down to, hey, look, I just didn't dodge right, or I didn't take care of my build enough, whatever. And so I want to tie back to some of the reasons why things with YouTube are not working out, but just in terms of being self-aware, I just knew that. And so I didn't want to put that product out there of, being, I knew I was banged up. So I didn't want to do something or have something where people are like, oh, Dan's not like himself. So and that's okay. To me, I'd always much rather protect the continuity of the show, and also have a show than not, right? So I'd rather have a show that's a little bit different in terms of what we're playing on the show, than have a show just canceled, or have a show that maybe what you normally expect, but the energy isn't there. I'm very protective over that, because and I don't talk about it. I didn't start the show saying, hey, look, I'm sick, I'm not feeling, because I don't know, man. I just, it's just my thing. I don't want people to know, because I want people to focus on enjoying the show and being distracted, and from, or entertained. I don't want them to worry about what's going on with me. That's the whole point of the show and the community. That's how I look at it. Like when you tune into like Lost or whatever radio show you like. It's, you're there for either sports radio, you're there for the content. You're not there to say, oh, hey, this guy had a bad day today or whatever. I'm just very feel strongly about that, and whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, that's how I approach it. And I feel like that's one area for me that'll never sway. Like, it doesn't matter what anyone says or any of my friends say about how they approach things, or to cut yourself some slack. That's just how I feel, which is not, it's like the anti of how everything else I'm always open to different viewpoints and things like that. And I think there was an extreme example there was a good example of that on this upcoming Check the Wire, which will come out tomorrow at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't listened to it yet, but we talk about, me and Ryan talk about playing a game on the release date, and how I'm like, I would never do that. I just would never play a game on the release date. And we talk about the pros and cons of that. And I think it's an interesting conversation that you'll be able to get a chance to listen to. But speaking of Ryan, aka Northern Line, I was that's kind of why I was on the ropes this past week. But with YouTube not doing so hot, I'm like, man, like I really got to really evaluate what's going on and why it is. And so we were able to have a conversation about, hey, look, here's what's going on. Here's some things that could help. And I think it's important. And it's important to have those discussions, because I don't ever want you to think that, hey, everything is always perfect and it's always, oh, it's great, the numbers are great, production's great, I'm feeling it's just not like that. There's going to be moments where you're like, all right, look, I hit a wall. I think the important part is, for me, is I always want to share the ups and the downs and the good and the bad, and kind of what to do in all situations, right? Or at least maybe not what to do, but what I do to maximize a great situation, also to minimize or get as quickly out of a situation when you're not doing things as efficiently or in the manner that you want, or not getting the results you want. So bottom line, I'm not getting the results that I'm looking forward on YouTube. And so I had a good conversation with Ryan about that, and kind of my changes coming up are and really it was a really big caveat, because I was close, and I love Splunky, and we've done it for, I don't know, almost a half year, like 100 and almost 150 straight days of episodes. And I'm like, it was really close to just being like, hey, look, we've done everything we could in the game. Every achievement is done. It may be time to start wrapping up that, might be time to start wrapping up that series, just based on, what's going on. And so just when we had that conversation, like hours later, Spelunky 2 gets announced with the release date, which is amazing. It's going to be great for content. I don't have any expectations in terms of, I don't think Spelunky 2 series on YouTube is going to be out of this world, or I don't have any disproportionate thoughts on it, but I'm just really looking forward to the ability to play that on the show, or excuse me, on the show, both on the show and on YouTube. So that was good. So it's kind of just like, hey, like hang in there a little bit longer. And it's easy for me, right? Like I don't have to hang in there in a game like Spelunky, because I really enjoy it. But if I'm looking at the numbers are saying, all right, Dan, hey, look, there's probably some other things out there you can try that subscribers on the YouTube channel will enjoy more. So it's one of those unique situations where it's like a game that I love to play is starting to peter out a little bit. But I see the value in continuing it. Both, number one, I really enjoy it. Number two, there's, Spelunky 2's coming literally right down the pipeline. So, it makes sense for me to kind of keep it going until September 15th, which is like another 30 days. And then we'll pivot from there and see how it goes. So, but to me, the point was just having someone in the industry, whether your office, your work, or a friend, where you're like, hey, look, you could sit down and bounce off ideas and really say, hey, look, kind of struggling with this. What do you think? And that's really, I don't want to say it's anti-me, but it takes me a lot to get to that point. So to only get to that point and then be able to have someone that's like can give insight on it that you trust and know was really helpful to me, and really kind of like, it kind of pumped the brakes and was like, all right, hey, look, YouTube is important to you. It's, but you got to start trying some different things, which was good for me. So yeah, so outside of that, I talked about, missing running this week. My goal is always run 5 days a week, 2 miles a day. And I've done that for 8 straight weeks. So 2 months. And there's been moments where I'm like, all right, hey, look, I'm on I'm on day 4 and it's Sunday. I got to get a run in. And, the fact the streak helped me kind of get over the top, right? So on a day that you may not feel like running, to me, it's just something that's played an important role to kind of keeping the streak alive. And so this past week, like I said, I got sick and that ended. And, it's always like a little bittersweet, and it's really a lot of bitter because I look at it, it's like, oh man, there's 2 months of hard work down the drain because the streak ended. And I don't know why, but I'm just aware that's in my personality to keep something going. And the more it's going, the more momentum it has. It's so much more difficult to quit or to stop when you don't feel like running. And the same thing for YouTube or anything else. The more you do it, it's just really hard to stop. And so I'm always cautious of that because I know that now that, I think I ran 1 day this week when I, felt better, and it's just not the same. So I don't know. From a fitness standpoint, I don't have the answer yet. I'm not super, and whether you know or not, I ran 56 straight weeks before a similar situation happened. I got really sick, probably the sickest I've ever been in my life, and then the streak ended. And so like I'm kind of in that standpoint again where it's like, all right, maybe it's time to do something else or take a different approach because, I don't know. I'm the type of person where once I scale a mountain, once I feel like I've conquered something, it's like, all right, on to the next challenge. And I feel like to me, that's a huge difference between Twitch and YouTube. I feel like Twitch, like I'm starting to scale the mountain, and to me, like I don't feel like it's ever gonna end. But on YouTube, I feel like I haven't even begun, the journey yet. I'm still like packing my bags and trying to figure out, hey, this works, this doesn't. And it's funny because it doesn't matter how many episodes we're into the podcast. I can guarantee you go to episode 1, we're probably still talking the same thing, right? YouTube is not right yet. YouTube is not there yet. And it's like anything else. I firmly believe it's just going to take a long time. And as long as I stay with it, it will, it'll pan out and it will start to kind of grow in the way that I'm looking to grow it. But just not there yet. And to me, it's not just the challenge, but it's just making sure that I'm being smart about it. Right. So, it's trying not to get too caught up into keeping a streak alive, as opposed to like balancing, hey, is this working? Is it not? Are people enjoying it? Is it not? It's such a unique and weird challenge because there's so many variables, a lot of which you have no idea how to control them or understand why or how something's working. So it's such a fun challenge. And but at the same time, it takes a lot of time, right? Like if I do a Neon Abyss episode, I know I could probably do 2 to 3 Spelunky episodes in that time. And is the value add there? Is the exchange of time worth it in terms of what I'm trying to do and trying to entertain people? The way I look at it, if people are enjoying the videos and watching them, then it's always worth it. Even though, from a loss leader standpoint, even though it may not generate revenue, that's still okay if, people are still being entertained. So it's just kind of walking that fine line. So outside of that, Twitch has been going really well. Since I took that week off, it's been kind of like a climb to start getting back to those numbers, but bringing back what I like to call a meat game, where we started playing Sekiro. It's really been really good, I think, for a lot of excitement on the channel, but also, it's another Souls game that's extremely different and another challenge, and it's exciting to play. It's exciting to struggle through, and in addition to that, it's been interesting. There's a lot of passion in the community about Sekiro. It feels like the beginning of Demon Souls a little bit in terms of there's a lot of people that are really passionate about exactly how the game needs to be played, and which is one of the unique things about the channel and community is all about, keep things positive, but also, taking into account the feedback of the individuals watching, of like front seating. And so it's very passionate. So it's always challenging and fun to understand how to properly manage that without it getting out of control, right? My goal is to always entertain, whether that means that it's playing the most efficient way or not. And I think some people, understand that, and some people want it played in the most efficient way. So it's just continuing to find that balance to do that. So the other thing that happened that I wanted to talk about a little bit was, and this is kind of some inside talk, but on the back end, there's a group of Discord moderators that moderate the community, the chat, and there's a certain set of rules. And for the most part, anytime there's like a new room or something created, it always goes through me because, ultimately, the tone of the community and how people, speak to one another, it's on me. That's how I take it. So if people are being rude and it's not being properly moderated, or I just take it personally, because it's, I feel like I'm in charge of that. And so anytime there's a new room or something created, it's always run by me because the moderators understand, hey, look, I'm super responsible for this and it's important to me. So long story short, there was a room created without my consent, and I was really, really pretty surprised by it. But at the same time, like, one of the moderators felt like it was the best thing to do. And I kind of had to walk it back a little bit and say, hey, look, I'm not mad at all, because I wasn't. But I'm just very protective over the community. And I know that when you start to, bring another community in from something completely unrelated, it just, in the past, it hasn't worked. And so in the future, I don't know. It's such a unique thing. And I think it's unique pretty much to, I don't know that, I'm sure there's other people with a similar issue in different regards or different avenues. But for me, when you combine two potentially unrelated communities, it's not necessarily something I'm focused on or ever really want to do, because one of the communities is like, it's a past, right? It's something I enjoyed and was a part of my history, and really doesn't have anything to do with the future so much. At the same time, it was an interesting decision point for me, because I don't want to prevent people in the community from talking about whatever they want to talk about, which is fair. Like, I'm not into that kind of stuff, like censoring or anything like that. But at the same time, it came down to one thing. When the decision to get rid of the room came down to one thing: is it something I'm looking to actively promote within the community, or something I would encourage, would be excited about encouraging within the community? And the answer is no. And it's not something like long term that I have an interest in doing. And frankly, I feel like whether it was a subsection of the community that wants to talk about that or whatever, I'm cool with that. But I don't have an interest in providing a venue for that. There's a lot of online venues and different communities that would be great for it, but I just think for me, it's just something is like a fun part of the past, but it's not part of the future. And so yeah, and, at the same time, I'm super grateful always for all the support in that regard. But at the end of the day, the decision came down to, it's just not something that I have an interest in continuing to talk about, for the next 10 years, which is with the, the community now, with gaming and Souls games and everything else. That is where my passion is. So, it was an interesting discussion, but the biggest thing for me is that I just wanted to reiterate to the moderators how to handle that, and that there was no, people make mistakes. It's not a huge deal. And ultimately, it wasn't a big deal, but stuff like that is going to start to come up within the community, and I'm just, preparing on how to best handle it. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed episode 100. I want to give a special shout out to LTDS11 for leaving a review on iTunes. Says, I've listened to this podcast from its inception. It's like hanging out with a buddy. Made me more positive and disciplined in the things I pursue. And that, to me, that's awesome to hear. And it's never, my intention to, tell you do this or do that, but merely just share what's going on, the good and the bad. And you may take something completely out of left field and, implement it and be like, yo, this is cool, and I learned this. Or, hey, I don't want to do this, and I learned it because, this is a struggle that, we talked about on the podcast. Nonetheless, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you guys will enjoy the week of Twitch shows. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. I will see you guys next time.